I'm Eshkalar, the world's greatest whatever it is I am. I forget because I'm pretty high right now. But whatever it is, it's certainly worth me getting up off the couch and, putting on my pants and walking over to talk to you folks, you wonderful folks, you folks who deserve my best. So today I'm going to talk to you about the next in my series called Mything Persons. I'm going to talk about a literary character today rather than a purely mythological one. Dr. Frankenstein's monster. It was made out of parts of various corpses and then stitched together. And then he activated it with something that was brand new in science fiction of the times, galvanic reflexes. That's right, galvanic action. You can take the limb of a freshly dismembered frog and you can put electrodes on the nerve. And you can put a little voltage through that and let it jump. And Mary Shelley, who had lost 2 children stillborn, was thinking somewhere in her mind, how can I make an invulnerable baby out of the remains of those poor dead babies? And it would be immune and invulnerable, and time and disease and bad genetics couldn't hurt it. And so she came up with this idea that a scientist skilled in the new science of galvanics could stitch together the parts of still warm corpses, right? And before they had corrupted, and then infuse them with galvanic energy and create an artificial form of life. This was the idea. Everything I said so far is true. You'll have to look into the history to see what I said about her and her miscarriages. That's so sad. Really. Now, Mary also had some problems. She had some fatalism going because of that. Her body had betrayed her several times. Perhaps God hated her. These are things that go through your mind. And it was a very strange civilization in those days. People were, the modern poets and the romantics and the romance poets and those guys, they were throwing off the boundaries. They were throwing off the blinders and chains of religious thought and the old science, and they were learning new things, and the world wasn't the way we thought it was, and the universe was doing other things, and planets were sweeping out equal arcs in equal time. Newton, you're so cute. You stole all your research from other people. No wonder you said you stood on the shoulders of giants to see so far. You were standing on their research. Ha ha, you pig! So anyway, so Mary created an invulnerable baby from science because she couldn't create a viable baby from life. She created one from death and activated it with galvanic power, the electrical power, the power that flows through nerves and gives you life. Those were the thoughts of the times, and she certainly personified them very well. If you learn how her husband Percy Shelley died, Percy Shelley, I am Ozymandias, King of Kings, gaze upon my works, ye mighty, and despair. 2 vast and trunkless legs of stone. Ah, what a poem. So anyway, and he wasn't the first one to write like that. He was part of a tradition. It was seeking those perfect words to describe that vastness of coming to Egypt, the home of all the ancient civilizations and the ancient gods and religions and magic and all this stuff that's steeped in the culture of 8,000 years, to find it was just dried bone ruins for as far as you could see, and occasionally a broken statue or a piece of rock. Yeah. So she watched him die, and it wasn't good for her either. And she came up with this idea for this book. She was friends with Bram Stoker, by the way, who wrote Dracula. Yeah, these guys were all exploring these new avenues, creating what would someday be called the Gothic horror genre, because the architecture of their times was neo-Gothic. So easily doth the media create our perception. Now, the last scene, because her monster wasn't stupid, he wasn't an insensate beast, he wasn't that. That was made by a director and a producer that decided to paint their own picture over somebody else's story. That's why movies aren't good for getting the book. Read the book. Then watch the movie and be like, why did I watch this piece of crap for? That's how much better books are than movies. I know you don't believe me. You're in a hurry. You don't want to think. And there's the television. But it's true. Books are a lot better than movies in almost every case. Even if you've got no imagination, the book will describe it better than the pageantry of the special effects team on the television will. Because they've got their own axe to grind. Not necessarily congruent with the intent of the writer of the story. So, Mary Shelley's monster eventually escaped mankind, which it needed to do. It needed to go away. It was a tragic hero, by the way, in the classic sense, in the Greek tragedies. And the last scene of the book, people don't read this book, they don't get it. They see the movie, they think, oh, it's peasants and pitchforks and torches. It's all a lie. It's all Hollywood makeup. Yeah. The monster took passage on a ship until it got trapped in the ice, and then it stepped onto an ice floe. And the last thing that the doctor saw was the monster sailing away into the darkness on an ice floe, immutable, immune to cold, immortal. So I'm gonna show you how things change with time. You got this monster. It's intelligent. It's sensitive. It knows that it is hovering between the worlds of life and death, of vital thought and deed and action and corruption and destruction. Huh? And so it's a tragic figure hovering there in the midst. And it can't have a mate, and it can't have a friend, and no one understands how it feels. Any poets out there? You ever been there? Yeah, I think so. So anyway, I'm going to tell you the rest of the story of Frankenstein's monster, and you will not believe what I found out. That's right. I was right about the comet. I'll be right about this too. Ready? All right. The monster went far off into the Arctic and almost immune to cold, and very, very inured to the privations of starvation and unhappiness in general, and energized by its weird electrogalvanic charge, supercharge, the monster drifted off into the ice and drifted off into the ice, far above the human shipping lanes. And there, it found an iceberg. And when it climbed aboard the iceberg, it found frozen in the ice a figure. So, having nothing to do, it slowly melted the figure out of the ice. It just rubbed at the ice and rubbed at the ice, and the heat caused the ice to melt, and did that very gently for years. And when the ice was all stripped away, he had this guy in this red, white, and blue chainmail suit with a big star on the front. And he had this big round shield, stripes and a star in the middle. He had a mask. Yeah. And the guy's frozen dead. So the monster looked at him and thought, I could both use a fresh change of clothes and a bit of a snack because I haven't eaten for years. So he ate the guy, and he put on the clothes. And that's the origin of Captain America. Thank you, I'm Eshkalar. I'll be here at the Avengers Mansion all week. Don't forget to tell Jarvis that I'm a friend. Or he'll feed me to Ultron or something.